Which makes it a great source of insulation and buoyancy for water movements. But if you let go of that, it falls down. So that's which way down is. It's the direction gravity is pulling everything in. Now, for some on the other side, why down is there up. But where are falling things going? Why do things fall? Are they being pushed or pulled? Or is it because of time travel? First things first, let's turn the sun into a black hole. We can do that using Universe Sandbox 2. This simulator will blow your mind. I love it. In fact, I love it so much, I put a code to get the game for free in the current Curiosity modes. If you're not subscribed to the box yet, you're missing out. Okay, look, for the purposes of this video, we want the solar system. And here it is. Notice that everything's moving 1550 around the sun. That's because we're turning that game set so that every second that passes through us is 14 days almost in the game. If we change this to 1 second, we'll look at the solar system in real time. You'll notice that it almost looks like it's frozen. Even though the Earth is traveling around the sun at about 30 kilometers per second, it barely appears to be moving. That is how fast space is. Anyway, let's go back to 14 days. I like that motion. Now look at the sun. It is not currently a black hole. We can change that. What we need to do is compress this.
Please don't.
Let's lock these fast so that it doesn't change while we do this smaller. Let's make this radius as small as we can. And, oh, where'd it go? Well, it's still there. It's just become a black hole. Pretty spooky. Now, let's look at the rest of the solar system. Alright, zoom it out. And up. Nothing's changed. I mean, something's changed. It's colder and darker. But nothing's
I don't want to deal with enemies right now.
You see, by shrinking the sun, we didn't change the direction of down. The planets, they're always being pulled by gravity towards its middle, making it smaller than it was. But also, the strength of that force pulling the middle of the sun stays the same. That gives us a clue as to what down is. The clue is the other thing we didn't change. Mass. Mass is a measure of how hard it is to accelerate something, to change its motion. But right now, these two balls have zero motion relative to me. Slapping around this hollow plastic ball is pretty easy. But doing the same with this solid steel ball, it's a lot harder.
Oh, goddammit, what else was I expecting?
And weight have nothing to do with this. Gravity acts downward, not against my horizontal slapping. course, gravity does contribute to friction, but friction works against me when I start moving the ball, but works with me when I stop the ball. And a steel ball is
So
harder to
tantalizing
stop
the
than a
close.
plastic ball. The difference is mass. The steel ball is more massive, it's more resistant to having its motion change. Mass is an intrinsic property. It does not depend on what's around for a change.
I just realized.
It can sometimes be thought of as the amount of matter something has. Your mass is the same.
Mara has Monarch March.
On Earth, in the middle of intergalactic space floating around. But all of this
Iya
mass does
has Space Stroll.
about what's around. Mass
Both of them are free. Do you see what I'm getting at here?
things with mass and or energy are attracted together by a force that we call gravity. The theory of gravity is just you and the Earth being attracted to one another. Now every portion of an object with mass attracts other portions towards it. The average of all this pulling is an attraction between centers of mass. Giant
Found it.
like Earth exert an obvious pull, but everything else, even a baseball.
I should have even rested an in if it was apart from the fact that it's the only way to pass the time. Passing the time is so expensive in this game.
Except their masses are so small, the force is minuscule. They can't overcome friction or push air out of the way. They're never going to come together. But if you put two baseballs, 1 meter apart in the middle of empty space where no other forces can act on them, they would literally fall together and collide. It would take 3 days to happen, but it would. Isaac Newton found that the strength of the force bringing two things together is equal to the product of their masses divided by the distance between their centers of mass squared times big G, the gravitational constant. If you make one or two objects more massive or move them closer together, the force will be stronger. And this force of attraction is what we call weight. So mass is intrinsic, whereas weight depends on what's around. Now, a weird thing happens when you weigh yourself on most scales. Weight is a force, but scales display pounds or kilograms, which are units of mass. What's going on is that a scale is activated by a force. Any force doesn't have to be caused by gravity. The scale then displays what amount of mass near the surface of the Earth would be attracted to the Earth with the force it's detecting. Now, since scales tend to be used on the surface of the Earth by people on which the only force acting is gravity, they tend to not be very far off, but they can be easily tricked, and they intervene the confusion between mass and weight. Notice that weight is neutral. You are pulled down by Earth with the same force that you pull up on Earth. According to a scale, I weigh 180 pounds on Earth. And the Earth weighs 180 pounds
Yes.
on me. But because the Earth's mass is so much greater than my own, and because the more massive something is, the more it resists being moved, our equal and opposite weight forces accelerate me a lot more than the Earth. If you draw a pencil from a height of 6 feet, the pencil doesn't just fall to the Earth. More precisely, they both come together. They're attracted to each other by equal forces, but the same force moves the pencil a lot more than the Earth. When you let go of the pencil, the Earth is literally pulled up to the pencil by the pencil's own gravity, a distance equal to about 9 trillionths the width
I
of a
just need to
proton.
find this thing.
That same force moves the pencil the remaining distance, which is still pretty much 6 feet. At the height of the International Space Station's orbit, you and Earth are attracted about 10% less than when you're on the surface, about 8.8 times your mass, but not 0. For this reason, weightless astronauts in zero gravity are neither weightless nor in zero gravity. Their weight force fails to bring them and Earth together because they move horizontally so quickly that they fall just as fast as Earth's surface curves away from them. And even though they're experiencing 90% of the gravity you and I are feeling right now, that's why they'll just fly away, there are no forces, called G-forces, to resist their weight, since everything around them is falling too. It's resistance to your weight force, stress, deformation that is needed for you to feel weight. What astronauts in orbit actually lack is
I feel like I forgot something.
weight. Likewise, a helium balloon has weight.
There it is.
I mean, it's made out of matter. It clearly has mass, so it's attracted to the Earth.
Anyway, that wasn't what I was forgetting. I mean, it's nice that there's a shortcut. But
Okay, it has negative apparent weight. That's because its attraction to the Earth is weaker than the buoyant forces from the air around it that push it up. Now, while it moves up, it pushes air molecules down, but they transfer that force widely, not just directly down onto the scale. Buoyant forces are caused by the fact that whenever you are immersed in a fluid, like water or air, molecules lower down are at greater pressure. They're being pressed by the weight of all the molecules above them that are closer to Earth, so they're pulled to the
final golden tape
Now,
stroke.
having greater pressure means they pack a bigger punch when they collide with things. So, horizontally, those collisions cancel out, but vertically, the stronger collisions from below win out, providing lift, buoyant force. Now, this even happens on your own body. Across its surface area, air lifts you with a force of about 1 which is equal to the weight force of an apple. So if you weighed yourself in a vacuum, you would weigh about this much more. But that's not all. Earth's spin causes it to bulge at the equator. So the closer you are to it, the further you are from Earth's center of mass. And thus your actual gravitational weight will be down is always changing. I mean, where is Earth's center of mass? It would always be the same as Earth's geometric if Earth's composition was uniform. But Earth contains pockets of massive rock at different depths. Water, mountains. It's got moving, changing insides, air, seasonal ice. And though they're far away, gravity extends forever from everything. So the moon, the sun, the planets, all of them pull on you negligibly, but truly. You weigh about 1/1,000,000 of your weight less when the moon is directly above you. This chunky, shifting balance of material on Earth and everywhere else in the universe means that down is always changing. On top of that, Earth's spin skews what you consider the direction of down away from its center of mass, because the push you get from Earth's spin seems to slightly lift you, reducing your apparent weight and lifting down towards the equator. The net result is an apparent weight reduction at the equator of about 0.5%. If a scale guesses your mass must be 200 pounds at the poles, it'll guess that you're 199 at the equator. The 9.8 multiplier used so often in physics is calculated based on how these factors affect someone at 45 degrees latitude. All of these influences on the direction of down result in a total vertical deflection that's only ever at most a few arc seconds anywhere on Earth. That's not enough to be felt, but changes in direction and strength can be used to study the shape of the seafloor, determine what's under, or even help you discover ancient buried ruins.
Pretty sure that's just another one-way trip.
All of our downs aren't a bunch of radially symmetric lines. Down is an uncoded mess. Now, since solids don't flow, they can have shapes that don't pay much mind to this. But water can flow. So, ignoring influences like wind and tides, the surface of oceans and lakes and
Do I
puddles
fight this guy?
is perpendicular to down. If water could pass through land, or if Earth were submerged in water, gravity would be the same everywhere along its bumpy surface. Such a surface is called a geoid and can be drawn at any altitude. If you wanted to build a table that completely enclosed the Earth, it would have to have rolling undulations nearly 100 meters in some points in order to be level, so that a ball placed anywhere on it would roll. Here,
How?
exaggerated 1,000 times. You weigh about 100% less, or a few grams, here than you would say here, where gravity's been stronger. The point is, the strength and direction of down is variable by location and changes over time. So, down is a fluctuating vector. Easy enough. Except, why should matter attract matter in the first place?
It's weak to her.
Isaac Newton was able to describe attraction, but not explain it. Humanity got closer, however, when Albert Einstein introduced his general theory of relativity. Einstein thought a lot about the fact that everything falls to the ground at the same rate. No matter how massive something is, when dropped, it will accelerate towards the Earth, down, gaining about 9.8 meters per second for every second that it falls. That means that a hammer is quite massive, and a not-so-massive feather when dropped at the same height will hit the ground at the same time. Okay, what just happened was an air run. In order to fall through air, the thing has to push air out of the way. But if it has a large surface area and a low weight force, it will have a lot of
Holy
air
mother of
to
Jesus.
be able to move that air very quickly. In a vacuum, things do fall at the same rate regardless of mass. This was famously demonstrated by Apollo 15 Commander David Scott on the moon.
You know, drop the two up here and hopefully touch the ground at the same time. How about that?
That's weird, right? I mean, if a more massive object is pulled with a greater force, shouldn't it fall faster? Well, Newton's explanation is simple. Larger masses are attracted with greater forces, but will also require more force to be accelerated, the same as a less massive thing. Something 100 times more massive might require 100 times the force, but it will be pulled by gravity 100 times more. So everything falls to Earth at the same rate. What a fun coincidence, right? Maybe not. Einstein realized that there's another way for things to appear to fall together regardless of their masses. Imagine a feather and a hammer floating in space, in a room. If the room is suddenly accelerated up at 9.8 meters per second squared, the feather and the hammer will hit the floor at the same time. Furthermore, whether it's the room coming up to meet them or gravity being suddenly switched on, neither object will feel any force pushing them. There's no way to tell which of these happened. This is Einstein's famous equivalence principle. He once admitted that his greatest thought ever was that of a man falling off of a roof. While falling, the man would not feel any forces on him, even though he's speeding up. Free fall is indistinguishable from floating alone in space, from having no forces,
Forgot about this.
not being moved.
Let's do it.
What if gravity isn't a force at all? What if things fall not because they're being pushed or pulled?
Bruh, really? The creeper from Advanced Wars Days Ruin?
To see how this could be, we need to talk about straight lines. What I have here is a retractable ID badge holder. This is a great way to test for straight paths, because the string is always kept taut. The card I have behind has two lines drawn on it, and if, while I pull the string out, it always stays between those two lines, I will know that I never turn while I pull it, because any turn will translate into a different angle between the lines on the card and the string. Now, if I put two of these on a flat table and pull them out, always ensuring that they go straight ahead, they will never meet. They will be forever parallel. But now, let's put them on a sphere, a curved surface. Again, I pull both strings forward, making sure that they always are pulled out straight, no turning. Wait, they came together. Well, they didn't turn. Look, maybe there's some kind of weird force that pulled my hands together. And just like gravity, I didn't feel it, but it happened. No, what happened was not the result of force. It was just a natural result of curvature. You might be thinking, wait a second, are those really straight lines? I mean, they don't look that straight to me. Also, what if they just moved along latitude lines? Then they'd never come together, and those look pretty darn straight. But they're not. A straight line never turns. And although latitude lines look straight at first glance, following one requires turning. To find straight line paths on surfaces, whether they're flat like this or curved, I love the rivet test. And you can use an actual rivet, but I have found that a strip of paper works.
I wanna play Mayara.
Let's take a look at this path right here. It's straight at first, but then it curves. Now, if two people are traveling along this curve, and they want to stay know that we have found a straight line. And as you can see, the strip can lay flat and follow the straight part of this path. When it comes to the curve, in order to follow the path now, the strip, well, it has too much material on the inside, and that material bunches up and leaves the plane. Therefore, we know that this part of the path is not straight. Let's use the rivet test to find straight lines on the surface of a cone. Well, from the looks of it, a line directly from the base to the tip seems like it would be straight. Sure enough, yeah, the rivet lays flat on that path. But what about a ring around the cone? Nope, doesn't work. Shorter distances around near the tip of the cone mean that there's too much rivet up at the top, so it doesn't lay flat. Let's see, what else is there though besides this? Well, if I start here and just allow the rivet to lay flat, I get a little curvy looking shape like this. I say curvy looking because while to someone say at the base, this path might seem to go up, slow down, change direction, and then fall down faster and faster. Since a rivet on such a path is flat, it's actually, for inhabitants on the cone's surface, perfectly straight. If we trace the rivet's path onto the cone, we can see this clearly because a cone can be flat. A straight line on a curved surface is called a geodesic. Here is a geodesic on a sphere. The equator is one. Here's another. A line of latitude is not a geodesic, it's not a straight line. To see why, let's try to follow it with the rivet. You know what? I have to keep kind of lifting it. Yeah, see, distances around the sphere become shorter as we go up, so there's too much material on the rivet up here and it leaves the surface. This path contains turns, and in order to turn, a force has to act on it. If no force is did, this is the path you would take. Notice that the rivet begins moving due east, but then falls south. Falls. Einstein realized that curvature could cause things to be seemingly attracted to one another without needing to invent the existence of forces like gravity. But attraction only happens if things move along the surface. If they stay still, they don't come together. So for something at rest, how does falling begin? I mean, the thing has to move in this direction, but it's at rest, right? Well, yes, but it's only at rest in space, and that's not the whole story. Up, down, forward, backward, and left, right are all you need to describe where an event occurred. But a complete description will also need to describe when. Together, these four dimensions form the setting in which everything in our universe happens. Space-time. Since we can talk about a falling pencil using just one spatial dimension, up and down, we can use a piece of paper to model space-time for it. Okay, so we've got up and down, but we have to add another direction the pencil moves in. Time. Now, if no forces act on the pencil, it won't move through space. It will only get older. And as you can see, if all it does is get older, it won't fall. If space-time was flat, when I let go of the pencil, it wouldn't go anywhere. But now let's allow the Earth, which is massive, to manipulate space-time into, say, a cone. Now, with no forces acting on it, every part of the pencil follows a straight line. But on a cone, as we saw earlier, such a path will look like this. It will fall. This is because distances around the cone are shorter, higher up. Time runs faster further from a massive object. But to go straight, not turn, every part of the pencil must cover an equal distance in space-time, like this. Only when the pencil hits the Earth does the repulsion of the mutual electrons provide a force pushing the pencil on a geodesic. For the Earth, time is a series of slices from this evolution. The pencil's force-free geodesic is why it falls. Not a push or pull, just the pencil's natural tendency to follow a straight line until something acts on it.
Sure.
We only use one-dimensional space and one of time, because visualizing our universe is free of space and one of time would take us beyond the limits of what can be shown on paper or screens. But math can take us there. General relativity allows us to calculate how much mass and energy occur in space-time, and has been used to explain things that Newton's older theory of falling as the result to the conclusion that there is no gravity. There's just space-time, its curvature, and us in it. As John Wheeler famously put it, space-time grips mass, telling it how to move. Mass grips space-time, telling it how to curve. Relative to the Earth, we don't move very fast. Even jet airplanes move negligibly close to the speed of light. So relative to Earth, we move almost exclusively through time. As such, we are more affected by the way time is curved by mass than how space is curved. This has led many to claim that for the most part, you feel as though you're being pushed into the ground, not because of a force called gravity, but because time is moving faster for your head than for your feet. Down is relative and always changing, but it exists because of and is always in the direction of slower time. Bertrand Russell called this the law of cosmic laziness. Everything is naturally steered towards where time is slowest. We call this falling, going down. So you don't have to keep anything on the down low. Time will take care of that for you. And as always, thanks for watching. Remember that you can support ASOS and Alzheimer's research by subscribing to ASOS Curiosity Box. The current one comes with code for every copy of River Sandbox 2, which is amazing, and a whole host of other science toys and tools picked by myself, Jake, and Kevin. I love it. Also, I hope to see you at Brain Candy Live. We are coming to many cities very soon. Hopefully, one near you. By going to the show, you can see Adam and I doing things that, well, you've never seen us do before. We also explore the science and common misconceptions behind all things air. Maybe you're upset too, but maybe not. I hope to see you there. And, as always, thanks for watching.
Okay, V3, get rid of her. Vale is still my best healer. What? Hey. Should you really be... There's no party-wide heal anymore. Oh yeah, holy shit, it's expensive. I gotta get to the next floor.
So I wanted to go ahead and make this video about the Deltarune status update for 2020. Now normally this time of year I would go and read all the status update on the stream, talk about it in the live chat, then predict how development is going when I think the chapter is going to release. However, this year we can't really do that because all we really got was paragraphs in like an unused song. In comparison to last year, we got like 3 screenshots, 2 songs, the entirety of the spam sweepstakes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not upset about this, especially because we're getting news like all year now. Which as in comparison, we would have to wait a whole year just to get any form of update on how things are progressing. I'm satisfied with how it is, but at the same time, I really think that Deltarune is in a very weird spot development-wise based on how things are going. So many people, when Chapter 2 came out, most people suspected that based on how Chapter 2 was the longest chapter in the entirety of the game, it had the most cutscenes, the most battles, the most dialogue, according to Toby Potts himself. So many people assume that Chapter 3 through 5, he's releasing all 3 chapters at once, and you can totally see that happening this year. But the majority of the people predicted 2023, and even myself, I went on and I looked at the different status updates. My realistic prediction is 2023, but my optimistic prediction is 2022. But obviously that was an optimistic prediction, so that was really like my real prediction. But my realistic prediction was 2023. And here we are, and they're just now wrapping up Deltarune Chapter 3, and I think a lot of people are a little bit upset about it because throughout every newsletter so far that we've received throughout the entirety of this year, it has been Chapter 3 is almost done, Chapter 3 is almost done, we're almost done with Chapter 3. Every newsletter has implied that Chapter 3 is at the very end of development. And even now, in the autumn newsletter, here we are again, continuing work on Chapter 3. That's why I think people are mainly upset about this. You know, I can understand rightfully so, because in comparison to last year, I feel like they could have done a little bit more for the anniversary. I'm not upset about it because, you know, again, we got stuff all year now, but if they're developing Chapter 3 through 5, they could have shown off some stuff from like Chapter 5. We haven't seen an ounce of content from Chapter 5. We've seen content from Chapter 4, and we've seen a lot of content from Chapter 3. But we have no details on the development of Chapter 5, and we know Chapter 3 is almost done with development, but how far along is Chapter 4? And we really want to know, like, where Chapter 5 is, you know? Which is why I wanted to make this video because I'm starting to think that if Toby is going to release Chapter 3 through 5 at once, I don't see Chapter 3 through 5 releasing this year or next year, and possibly even 2025. If Chapter 3 is taking, at this point, longer than Chapter 2 to develop, then I think it's highly likely that Chapter 4 and 5 might be in a similar situation, where at this point, yeah, the development might be a lot smoother, but it's also going to take a lot longer per chapter for some reason. I guess these chapters are a little bit more complex or something. I don't know, it's just confusing on where the game is at the moment. My realistic prediction for all 3 chapters dropping at once is 2026, maybe even 2027. And, you know, this is a pretty big problem because we're going to be content starved longer than Chapter 2. And, like, I don't want them to rush the chapters. I would rather have a super high quality game rather than a rushed one. We don't want to have Deltarune filled with a bunch of bugs and glitches that, speedrunners can use. But in the casual experience, we don't want it to end up like SpongeBob Rehydrated, where you find a bug in every single casual playthrough you play, So obviously, your time on things is a lot better. In my opinion, this is optimistic. Doesn't it feel weird that they're primarily focusing on Chapter 3 all of a sudden? Go back to like Chapter 2. When Chapter 2 was released, go from the release of Chapter 2 and to the status update of late 2022. It was heavily implied that they were focusing on all the chapters simultaneously. And then for some reason, at the beginning of this year, they started focusing on Chapter 3 primarily, and they threw parts of the team to Chapter 4 and 5 to get that going. Or, specifically bullet patterns and stuff. But just the way that, they're focusing on Chapter 3 leads me to believe, now this is, again, very optimistic, that Toby is changing his plans again. And that Chapter 3 is going to release on its own. Easily massive cope. I know it's massive cope. You don't have to tell me in the comments. It's weird to me because I can't see them sitting on a fully complete chapter. Chapter 3 is probably going to be done by the end of this year, right? And hell, if this newsletter is written a month before, every other newsletter he's released, this development progress for Chapter 3 is based on maybe the end of July, early August, So it is pretty realistic that Deltarune's 5th anniversary is coming up on October 31st. My prediction and my theory on this, Deltarune Chapter 3, -4 and 5 could easily be released by October 31st. That could be realistic. If it's just Chapter 3 alone, I don't see them releasing 3 chapters on October 31st, but I can see them releasing just Chapter 3 alone by October 31st. I can 100% see that. The problem is that that's obviously not the plan. Again, this is Massive Cope. He said, hey, we're going to release 3 through 5 at once and then change plans. I think that could easily be realistic because, again, Toby has changed his plans in the past. Remember, if the original plan was to release every chapter at once. That was the original plan. Can you imagine Chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7 all releasing at once? Can you imagine that? How massive of a game that would be. That would be huge. I think it can be realistic that it's going to be one chapter. After the announcement of Chapter 3 through 5, many people actually gave a lot of criticism towards that. And they were like, we had to complete Chapter 2 and it was a 6-hour long chapter and we had to complete it fast to avoid spoilers and take everything in. I had to beat Chapter 2 in a single night and I played for 6 hours just so I could avoid spoilers and continue on with my life. And then I also had to take it all in. Taking all of Chapter 2 in took weeks. I don't think you all understand that. You all seen my earlier theories on Deltarune Chapter 2 and how most of them are pretty bad. And the reasoning they're all pretty bad is because I still, at that time, I didn't fully take in Chapter 2 yet. I didn't digest Chapter 2 yet. By the time I was making those theories, I only played through Chapter 2 once. So having 3 chapters on that, genuinely not good. I think the issue here is that payment. Not that they have funds, but how they're going to release the chapters. If they're going to release 3 through 5 at once, you're going to be paying through Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's going to be what? $50-ish. I can see that being worth $50 if I'm being completely honest with you. Because Undertale's $10. I can see all that being $50. Maybe 45. But if you release Chapter 3 by itself without 4 and 5, it would feel weird paying for all that money for Chapter 1 through 5, but you don't get Chapter 4 and 5 yet. You get what I'm saying? And I think that's the main issue, and I think that's why they want to release Chapter 3 through 5 all at once. You have to take that into consideration. This is with the massive amount of criticism that came from the announcement that they're releasing Chapter 3 and 5 all at once. I think they easily could just change things. Because again, Toby's the person that wants to have this game out more than anyone else. I mean, he said it himself. He had dialogue for Chapter 1 written back in 2012, and I can see why he wants this game out more than anyone else. Even releasing 1 chapter a year, that can hold us over until the next chapter release, because that's consistently releasing new content every couple of years. I think a lot of people would be fine if Chapter 3 release this year, and then we get Chapter 4 on like Undertale's 10-year anniversary. I can see that also being extremely realistic. They have teams working on Chapter 4 and 5 at the moment, alongside the development of Chapter 3, even if it's not that large of a team as people working on Chapter 3. They're still developing Chapter 4 and 5 with plot, bullets, gimmicks, stuff like that. I can see Chapter 3 releasing this year for Deltarune's 5-year anniversary. Because I don't see them releasing a chapter next year. Deltarune's in just a weird development spot right now. I'm very curious as to what y'all think about this. Because, like, I feel like this is kept vague on purpose, this newsletter.
Yikes. Shit, I still don't have my... I keep forgetting. Pretty easy enough. Alright, this team is really, really bad. Oh, sticky. I thought it said stinky. Acid. To the next floor. I pretty much already almost mapped out all of this floor. Shit, what the fuck? Out. Rock. Go up. No. Oh my goodness. Probably there's a shortcut. Thank God. Whoa. I'm gonna run. This team clearly isn't very practical. level up for Sanctify. Never mind. Can we try ES again? Taking a break. My head hurts again.